Kalachuchi, the most underrated medicinal plant, or more dangerous than you think. There are plants that seem designed to demand attention, and then there is Kalachuchi, beautiful, fragrant, peaceful, almost poetic. In some places it is associated with cemeteries, peace, memory, and ancestors. But behind those elegant flowers is a much stranger story, because this plant, known in many parts of the world as Plumeria or Frangipani, has not only been admired for its scent. For generations, it has also been used as medicine, for skin problems, for pain, for fever, for inflammation, even for more serious conditions like asthma, gout, and infections. And this is where the story becomes genuinely interesting, because when a plant is said to help too many different problems, two things are usually possible. Either we are dealing with a myth that grew too large, or we are looking at a natural pharmacy that science is only beginning to understand. And with Kalachuchi, the uncomfortable truth is that it may be a little bit of both. Yes, it contains real bioactive compounds. Yes, studies have found anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, and antioxidant activity in different parts of the plant. But there is also a side that people almost never mention seriously enough. Its latex can irritate the skin, some parts of the plant may be toxic or corrosive, and much of the most dramatic evidence comes from lab and animal studies, not strong human clinical trials. That means today, we are not doing a fantasy herbal video. We are doing something much better. We are going to uncover which medicinal secrets of Kalachuchi actually have support, which ones are still just promising, and why this plant could be a botanical treasure, but never one to use blindly. To understand its power, we first need to look at its chemistry, and this is where Kalachuchi stops being just a beautiful flower and starts looking like a laboratory with petals. Recent reviews of the Plumeria genus describe a complex mix of compounds: alkaloids, flavonoids, triterpenes, iridoids, saponins, sterols, and essential oils. Among the compounds that appear most often are lupiol, ursolic acid, plumeride, and other molecules that researchers have linked to interesting biological activity. On top of that, the flowers contain aromatic components like geraniol, citronellol, and farnesol, which help explain not only the fragrance, but also part of the plant's antimicrobial and antioxidant potential. And here comes the first major twist in this video. Most people think a medicinal plant works because it contains some mysterious natural energy, but science tends to ruin romantic ideas in the most elegant way possible. Plants work, when they do work, because they contain molecules that interact with tissues, enzymes, receptors, and real biological processes. That changes the whole conversation, because now we are no longer talking about botanical superstition. We are talking about a plant with compounds that, at least in preclinical research, show measurable activity. The question is no longer whether Kalachuchi contains something interesting. The real question is, how much of that could actually help a real human being without creating harm? Let's begin with one of the areas where Kalachuchi has shown some of the clearest experimental promise: inflammation. A classic study on Plumeria acuminata found that the methanolic extract of the leaves showed significant anti-inflammatory activity in animal models, supporting its traditional use in inflammatory conditions. That does not mean rubbing some random homemade preparation onto a painful joint is equivalent to medical treatment, but it does mean the traditional use did not appear from nowhere. There is a real pharmacological signal there, and that matters more than it first seems. Because a plant with anti-inflammatory potential is not only interesting for joint pain or rheumatism, it also opens the door to something even more fascinating: the idea that certain extracts may modulate biological processes involved in chronic disease. Inflammation is not just pain. Chronic inflammation is tied to tissue damage, metabolic disorders, vascular problems, and a long list of slow-moving issues the body pays for over time. So when a plant shows anti-inflammatory activity in the lab, science pays attention, not because it already has a cure, but because it has a lead. But Kalachuchi did not stop there. Another area that has attracted attention is its possible antimicrobial and antifungal activity. Studies have shown that extracts from different Plumeria species can inhibit the growth of bacteria like Staphylococcus aureus, E. coli, and other microorganisms in experimental settings. There is even a preliminary study comparing a Kalachuchi bark ointment with clotrimazole for automycosis, a fungal ear infection, and it found promising therapeutic potential. Promising does not mean proven, but it is enough to understand why this plant survived so long in traditional medicine. And here comes another uncomfortable truth that is rarely explained well. A plant can show antimicrobial activity in the lab, and still not be ready for casual home treatment. Because killing bacteria in a dish is one thing. Treating an infection in a human body without irritating tissue, causing allergic reactions, or creating dosage problems is something very different. That space between interesting and safe and effective is where many of the most dangerous mistakes in natural health advice are born. Now we move into a part of the story that sounds almost too good to be true: asthma. According to the material you shared, Kalachuchi has traditionally been used for respiratory conditions, and some experimental research reported bronchodilatory effects comparable to salbutamol in certain animal models. That kind of statement is exactly the kind the internet loves, because it sounds huge. But this is where we need to be extremely serious. The strong respiratory evidence here is preclinical and very limited. It is not enough to recommend Kalachuchi as a replacement for standard bronchodilators in people with asthma. And there is no room to play with that. Poorly managed asthma can kill. So while this line of research is fascinating, turning it into practical advice would be irresponsible. Does that mean the findings should be ignored? Not at all. It means it should be read for what it is: a signal, not a prescription. And that distinction is everything. Because Kalachuchi starts revealing itself as a plant full of possibilities, but every possibility comes with a warning attached. Now we arrive at one of the most surprising uses of all: gout and uric acid. Here, the experimental data is especially interesting. A study on Plumeria rubra flowers found inhibitory activity against xanthine oxidase, the enzyme involved in uric acid production. In animal models, certain flower extracts significantly reduce serum uric acid levels. That is scientifically intriguing because it touches a very important pathway in gout management. Drugs like allopurinol work on that same pathway, although of course they are far more standardized and thoroughly tested. But here reality steps back in wearing boots. Lowering uric acid in animals or experimental systems does not mean a person with gout should start boiling Kalachuchi flowers and expect the same result. Between a studied extract and a homemade preparation, there is a universe of variables: dose, purity, toxicity, absorption, interactions, and long-term safety. Still, this line of investigation absolutely justifies paying attention. Because when an ornamental flower starts affecting a biochemical pathway relevant to gout, it stops being just pretty. It becomes scientifically provocative. And if you thought the surprises ended there, wait. Because now we enter the area where science and sensationalism usually collide head-on: cancer. Your source material mentions preliminary studies involving petal and bark extracts with cytotoxic activity and inhibitory effects on cell lines or models of rapid cell division. That is real in the narrowest scientific sense. Some Plumeria compounds have shown cytotoxic activity in preclinical research. But here comes the most important warning in the video. Cytotoxic does not mean clinically useful against cancer. Many substances can kill cells in a laboratory. The key question is whether they can do it selectively, safely, and effectively in human beings. And in the case of Kalachuchi, we are nowhere near being able to say that responsibly. That does not reduce the plant's value. It actually defines it more clearly, because it reveals the true role of Kalachuchi today, not as a proven cure, but as a botanical source of compounds that may inspire future research. That is a less viral story than the flower that fights cancer, yes, but it is also a far more honest one. Now let's shift the angle, because not everything interesting about Kalachuchi is tied to serious illness. Its essential oil and aroma have attracted attention in perfumery, aromatherapy, and wellness spaces. Some experimental studies have explored stress-related effects and behavior, and there is no question that the flowers have powerful sensory appeal. What remains uncertain is how much can be attributed to consistent physiological benefits in humans. Because one thing is clear: a scent can be pleasant, calming, and emotionally evocative. Another is claiming it as a clinically proven therapy for anxiety or chronic stress. Even here, though, Kalachuchi remains fascinating. It is not just a medicinal plant. It is also a plant that shapes sensory experience, emotional memory, and cultural meaning. And now we come to the part almost every health video delays or avoids: safety. Because yes, Kalachuchi may be promising, but it may also be irritating, toxic, or corrosive depending on the plant part and how it is used. The white latex that appears when a stem or leaf is broken is repeatedly described as irritating to skin and mucous membranes. In addition, several reviews warn that ingesting certain parts of the plant, especially bark or latex, may cause vomiting, diarrhea, and severe gastrointestinal upset. That duality is exactly what makes Kalachuchi so delicate: A medicinal plant can have real therapeutic potential and still be a very bad idea in the hands of enthusiastic, poorly informed people. And that may be the most valuable lesson in the entire video. Not every beautiful plant is harmless. Not every traditional remedy is automatically safe. And not every promising compound is ready to become a home treatment. Kalachuchi lives exactly on that border, between ancestral knowledge and experimental science, between ornamental beauty and botanical pharmacy, between promise and danger. And that is exactly why it is so fascinating. Because we are not looking at an empty myth. But we are not looking at a fully validated medicine either. We are looking at a plant with real preclinical promise, wide traditional use, and very clear limits that should not be ignored. So after all of this, what is Kalachuchi really? It is not just a cemetery flower, it is not just a natural perfume, it is not just a folk remedy, and it is definitely not a ready-made cure that replaces medical treatment. It is a complex plant, one of those plants that forces science to listen to tradition, while also forcing tradition to accept that not everything believed has been proven. Its true value is not in inflating it into a miracle. Its value is in understanding it precisely. If one day this plant leads to standardized and safe treatments, it will not be because someone improvised with latex and leaves in a kitchen. It will be because research did the difficult work, isolating compounds, testing mechanisms, measuring toxicity, verifying effects, and setting limits. And that road, although less romantic, is exactly what separates serious hope from beautifully decorated superstition. So the next time you see a Kalachuchi tree, do not look at it as just another beautiful flower. Look at it for what it may actually be, one of the most intriguing and underestimated medicinal plants of the tropical world, with enough power to fascinate science, but enough risk to demand respect. If this video surprised you, give it a like, share it with someone who loves medicinal plants or believes every natural flower is automatically safe, and tell me in the comments, what surprised you most about Kalachuchi? Its anti-inflammatory potential, its promising effects on uric acid and microbes, or the fact that its latex can be irritating and toxic if used the wrong way? I want to hear from you.